And people are so weird. They do things I can't wrap my mind around in terms of making any type of sense. And I kind of was hoping due to his lagging in the polls recently, in terms of national New Hampshire, that I would finally never have to be able to speak about Buttitrash again, that it was over for him, and just won't go away. Um, I will give him credit for being the only candidate who's not in the top three that's actually been able to be in front or be in the same type of place with people who are on top everywhere else. It is something of an accomplishment, but I would still pin it more toward his Iowa staff than anything else, because if he's doing so great in that one state that he's not originally from, but every other one he's somewhere in the back or fourth, fifth, whatever, then there's something to be asked about that. Try to pull up an article to read off of it for some reason. We're having a bit of difficulty here because every time I go to CNN, instead of an actual article, they have a video. They give the video an article-like title, then you click it, and then you get the video, so that you can watch them theorize and talk about how great he's doing. And in that poll, I just know that the three candidates who saw a increase were Buttigieg, Sanders, and the Snowman, aka Klobuchar, and they completely on Morning Joe. I watched a little bit of it this morning. They completely ignored Sanders and his rise, or because he went up by, I think it was 4 or 5 points, whereas both Warren and Biden fell down, and like they just completely. I mean, I don't even. Whatever I said before, the media finds little subconscious ways to ignore Sanders, so that's not something that's new. But I cannot find this poll. It's really weird. They show all these statistics and they go and rattle this stuff off, but for some reason, when you actually look for these things, they tend to disappear and not show up. A really strange occurrence here. I'm seeing a poll for Trump. I even typed in, let me type in their names. This isn't the first time either. I realized the other time I spoke, or the last time I spoke about him, because I try to do to him what CNN and these other networks are doing to the candidates with actual grassroots support, like Sanders and Gabbard and Yang, where unless it's some kind of big scandal controversy, I just completely ignore them because I don't think they're worth my time for the most part. But this is actually something I wanted to discuss because I said before, I really don't understand, like why people pick some of these candidates, because when I look at them, I see a scam artist. Like, he's getting propped up as this, and if you watch MSNBC to any large extent, whenever they discuss him, they always bring up his sexuality and say this is why people won't vote for him. And I thought to myself, here you have a guy who can't recognize that the Democratic Party is moving more in support of the Palestinians right in the Middle East. Won't tell you when he wants to get out of Syria, just knows that Trump doing it was bad. Uh, Goes from supporting single payer as late as last year to now wanting a public option and calling it Medicare for all who wants it. And you really can't figure out why people have a problem with someone like that, and that it goes beyond who they get in bed with. Because contrary to popular belief, most people, I would still presume, don't even know that he's probably don't even know that about him, because people for the most part don't pay attention to this stuff to any large degree. So when you have a little personal stuff like that, it's actually very it's not in front of people's minds when they vote. And if there are people like that, which there are, they're not in any large number. We've had over 60% support for gay marriage for the last 5, 6, 7 years. So it's one of those things where they're looking for anything they can to try and excuse this poor candidate falling out in most places. And I just wish they would actually discuss policy. That's the whole point of any of these stupid elections, to actually talk about what you plan to do and not just sit there and whine about if someone is, into screwing people of their own gender. I just think a lot of people really don't care about that. And the main ones who do are the ones who are trying to look for the most basic excuse for why he, is not doing as great with these other people. Oh man, the media, they just every day it's like a verbal essay. They have to figure out how to justify and explain something. It's not even an informed analysis. They can't sit there and tell you what his views are. Like it's gotten to a point where people know who he is, but don't know what he stands for. Just like when I was in the car with that Uber driver this past Saturday, and they called him super liberal, and I didn't say this to him. I was like, what the hell does that even mean? But that person actually believes that he's just like maybe a notch or two down from someone like Sanders or Warren, and it's not the case. And that's why I said I really hate the lack of attention people pay to this stuff because it makes them vote for these idiots that they think are some champions of the progressive movement, and they're anything but. And who do you blame in that instance? Do I tell myself that I should have gone to Iowa and walked around and told everyone that this guy was a scam artist, or do I get upset with them for not looking into his record, not actually paying any attention to what was done on his part in either his city or what his views have been since this presidential primary started? Who do you blame? I lean more toward the people because I always say that I know about this stuff because I wanted to know about it. So if someone doesn't know about it and they have access to the internet and all these other forms of technology, it's a lot harder for me to say, oh, well, there's nothing that could have been done on their part to become aware of this because they could have learned about it just as easily as I have. Yeah, we were all laughing at Buttitrash for saying that that there was a two-man race in Iowa between him and Warren. He just wanted to discount. It's him really just trying to look like a bigger deal than he actually is. They will not show. This is really crazy. I keep getting that same stupid video. No one wrote an article about this. We're just gonna keep sending me a link to that. It's pretty insane. Or CNN used to be my main website to go for news, and before I found the Hill, they were the main one I would always check out. And now I give them such a brief glance. I think the only time I come over there now is for editorials. Yeah, he's at 20, I think 21%. I'm gonna go and pull up, and I know somewhere I can get that information from. But he's up there, and then the coalition of Warren, Sanders, and Biden are all at 15 and 16. So he's not in some massive huge lead that no one can get out of. But the is this the new anointed one? They've been making a lot of the goofy comparisons between him and Obama. Oh, we have funny sounding names, and when Obama gave a speech in Iowa, he made everyone stop being worried about if he could be elected, and he's going to do the same thing. Boop, 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 boop. So, uh, I'd say so. And it really sucks because, like I said, I'm not a we've talked ad nauseum about how bad Harris is, but she at least was smart enough to how do I explain it when you homosexual Obama, yeah. Um, I mean, his family, I would actually argue, probably didn't play that big of a. So it was mainly just the candidate. But like I said, I would have rather had Harris because at the very least, that was someone that still kind of tried to sort of act like she was progressive and didn't like when he talks, he concern trolls as Kyle would say, where he'll go, oh, you want to get rid of private insurance because you don't trust Americans to pick their own doctor. It's like, no, idiot. We want to get rid of it because we want to get rid of a price gouging market that puts profit over the health of its people by making them pay high prices and deductibles and co-pays and all these other little scammer ways to get money out of you. Like I said, it's And but the thing is, even as I can admit and remember all the little dumb things that he said, a lot of people who don't pay attention to stuff will, as I brought up earlier, the guy who said that he was super liberal, they don't care. They don't look into any of this, or if they do, they're watching trash like one of the mainstream networks. So they don't seem they actually do look at him as a slightly more moderate version of Sanders and Warren, which is insane. That's why I said presidential elections and really elections in the U.S. in general are jokes, because every time you get a candidate that runs on the issues, it's a rare thing, and then every time the media pays attention to the race, they turn it into a sideshow. Like, I shouldn't ever turn on one of these networks and hear people talk for an hour about how because he's gay, people don't want to vote for him, when the Democrats have literally had a party that, for the most part, supports gay marriage for what is it, 6 years, some length of time. And again, it's their way of being lazy. They don't want to admit their candidate sucks. Okay, here it is. This was from YouGov/CBS. It is Buttitrash at 21. Oh wait, no, this is a different one. This is the one they showed. They showed two of them. It was Buttitrash at 21, and it was Biden and Sanders at 22, and then Warren at 18, and then Harris at 5. And then the one that they were talking about today and making it seem like it was the coming of the apocalypse. Uh, oh, you mean you're gonna have to tell me who that is. That's Castro, right? He'll drop out soon. I think that's who you're talking about. You can let me know if you if I got it right or not. We got gay Obama, we got Mexican Obama, we got uh female Obama, as they called Harris. Just saying, but Harris, they were really trying to do a Obama redux. Like, they were hoping she would have the Senate seat for like 2 or 3 years, run for president successfully, and then be the Democratic nominee and beat Trump, and then we get another 8 years of I couldn't do anything, I couldn't get anything progressive passed through Congress, but my tenure was still transformative because I'm black. They wanted that really badly, and it didn't come their way. Yeah, this poll has Buttigieg at 25, Sanders and where's Biden? Sanders and Biden at 15, and then Warren's ahead of them at 16. That's the one they were whining about. I like this one because Tulsi and Harris are tied, and I keep thinking about when Harris said that she was a top tier candidate, and Tulsi was only pulling that 1% or whatever. So now she's right down there with her. Booker is a dollar store Obama. There's actually a segment that what's her name, Vigeland from TYT. She talked about how Booker is more conservative than Obama, which was fairly like shocked me because she brought up his record and whatnot. I'd have to go dig for that video, but it was pretty informative, because a lot of people, when they talk about these senators, they usually just mention one vote, like that guy on Saturday who his whole reason for thinking Collins wasn't a moderate anymore was because of one vote for a Supreme Court justice. So disregard everything that man, I hate people so much when it comes to politics, man. They say some of the stupidest stuff. Like, the only Republican senator besides two people that voted to keep Obamacare, which you little neoliberals love, one of two to vote against Trump's horrible education secretary, one of 7 to vote to end the Yemen war repeatedly, and like none of it matters because this Supreme Court nominee was so damn important and such a revolutionary thing, and like I just people are so short-sighted, they're narrow-minded, they don't think, they spit out words that have no validity based off of what's actually happened. I really can't stand them, man. That's why I don't, for the most part, talk to random people about this stuff, because they always find a way to just say something that's really stupid. Like when he said that the older Bush was dumb, but then admitted that the older Bush was right about calling the trickle down economics voodoo economics. And it was funny because I basically led him into that one. I was like, well, you just critiqued, Reagan's support of supply side economics, but then the person who condemned it, you're now saying is stupid, even though they were one of the most famous people to say this will not work. Uh, he didn't. Again, you have these people. They say things that are dumb. That's all I can say. I'm gonna keep regurgitating that. They're not too particularly sharp or bright or brilliant. That's why we have the stuff that we have. But yeah, I don't. It's really funny because all the people around me have moved past this man. Like even if they don't necessarily think he's as horrible as I do, because they call themselves, not following this stuff as much or watching these stupid mainstream media sources. They still think that he shouldn't be the nominee. They think that Sanders or Warren has been more qualified and been just someone you can trust more with this stuff. And I know Warren's got her problems from the. I mean, we've been harping on her for 3 years about the not endorsing Sanders thing, but it's really interesting to see people who are supposedly part of that group that are more likely to vote for the Democrat, no matter who it is, whether it's Biden or Buttitrash or Klobuchar or Daffy Duck or Roadrunner or the Three Stooges or Heckle and Jekyll, and even with him, they're like, yeah, whatever, just another Democrat, yeah, someone that's gonna say one thing and whatever. I do want to take one of these days, just get all those clips of him saying he supports single payer from last year and then stick them right in front of him opposing single payer. Because I don't know if you noticed, Ruben, but I have some basic editing skills. I like to think that I can know how to splice clips together and whatnot. Also, one of the reasons I didn't put out or try to like rush myself to put out the Taft documentary on Sunday was because I was trying to look for more stuff about his time as a Chief Justice, so it wouldn't just be, oh, here's the presidency and that's it. Vote blue no matter who. People like Warren. Yeah, she already announced I'm going to support the Democrat no matter what, which is a really ridiculous view that is based off of the narrow-minded. It's just they it's so funny. Like as they're sitting here and screaming about vote blue no matter who. I live in this blue state that votes for the Democrat no matter who it is. I don't even care. And even if I didn't, I said, my one vote basically is made not to matter by a system that can make the person who had 3 million less votes win. Gillibrand was feminist Obama. Yeah, man. Only thing I'll give her credit for is that she's shown that she does, to a small extent at least, listen to voters, because when she got called out for supporting that anti-boycott bill, she rescinded her support for it. So I give her, the slight credit for that. I still would rather have seen her be in the top four than Buttitrash or Harris, or like out of all those neoliberal ones, she was probably the one that offended me the least. If that's any that's like the most backhanded compliment ever. So you don't suck as much because all the other people suck way more. That's pretty much what that's saying in a nutshell. Also, I was thinking maybe after the Taft one, I'll probably do. Who else is really ignored? Maybe Rutherford Hayes. I don't know him or probably Van Buren. One of those two. You should look more into Obama's Netflix deal. Fits alongside the new internet censorship laws. Oh God, I'm already dreading whenever I do the eventual Obama documentary, because I have that. You remember that clip of Jimmy where he's like, that you want to know why the Democrats lost because they're clowns. I'm gonna stick that in there after the part where Trump wins the election, because it's one of those. That's why when I was talking about doing the uh like recap or documentary style videos for for Door. I was saying how the point behind those is to say, regardless of if this clip is a year old or 10 years old, if it still holds water, which a lot of his stuff still does, um, it's worth coming back to. Like he has a bunch of, because in January of last year, he uploaded, I counted them 52 videos. He has multiple instances where he predicts the Democrats are going to barely win the House or they're going to barely, get a bunch of seats back because of how crappy their message is. There's an instance where they won't support or come out against Sessions' medical, his marijuana. He did something to marijuana where I think he tried to ban it or something, but they wouldn't come out against it, even though the actual voters support it. So there's a lot of little things in there that, because we're looking at it through the prism of the following year and knowing how that election turned out, it's so much more relevant than it would have been to, like talk about it when it was happening. The resistance neoliberals are writing Obama's image as so that he could get a Trump style following. Oh, you mean people who support him no matter what and turn off their brain to policy? Told you, I'm so sick of people supporting candidates or just any of these presidents, and then when you mention something or critique any of them, they lose their minds. I even told this one person, I can name more accomplishments of Obama than his own supporters. And I mostly keep that limited to the Iran deal and the restoring relations with Cuba, because I actually like those two things. But you get the idea that a lot of people just know him as the president, but not actually, and then Obamacare, and they can't tell you anything else. And it's really pathetic. It's actually, someone said it's kind of like a Martin Luther King redux, where a lot of people will call themselves these big, huge fans of King, but then they can only mention his assassination and I Have a Dream. They can't say about the Poor People's Campaign, the Montgomery bus boycotts, opposition to Vietnam, getting spied on by Hoover for his entire life after or rather for the rest of his life after the March on Washington. I mean, it's so pathetic, man. Like when people say they like someone, they don't even try to know anything about them. And that's something I actually give credit to. The only group I've seen that has like a weird obsession with someone that actually will look into them are the historians, or people that like a lot of these different presidents that are actually like scholars, and because they'll look into their career, they'll say they did this, they did that. I really respect that, because it's a far cry from the, just skimming over stuff that a lot of people do now, where they know a little bit about someone. Yeah, it's really embarrassing, man. I guess it comes from the fact that when I decided I like something, I tried to learn the most about it, like as much as I could, to indicate that this was something I really cared about and was serious in terms of knowing about. So if there's some historical figure of the modern era that, people ignore, I'll be like, hey, this person was a big deal because they did this, they did that. What the hell? The resistance neoliberals want people to believe that Obama was the successor of MLK. Yeah, the successor of an anti-war pastor that bombed innocent babies in the Middle East at the behest of Saudi Arabia for, what was that, 2 straight years, then the last 2 years of his tenure, March of 2015 until he got out. So that's 22 months. Yeah, they're not fooling me. They can fool other people, but we're not tricked over here. There's no, we look into the different facts of this stuff and draw our own conclusions, regardless of the spin on these different networks. So they can keep on trying, but certain people aren't going to be worked on. Let's see. Jim Mattis is interesting. We should keep a closer eye on him. Well, Ruben, remember I told you that was the only member of Trump's cabinet I actually liked and followed with any kind of sort of respect or admiration. So I'd have no problem continuing to pay attention to his stuff. He's a oh yeah, someone pointed this out. Sanders and Mattis have the same birthday, and then Bolton and Biden have the same birthday. I just thought that was funny that the one member of Trump's cabinet and the like top progressive in Congress have the same birthday, and then the warmonger. Yeah, both Biden and Bolton are November 20th, and then both Sanders and Mattis are September 8th. And then the warmonger vice president and the warmonger national security advisor have the same birthday. That's really amusing to me. No, it was actually for these little polls or whatever. I always like when I watch Status Quo because they mention how, which it's been harder to watch him because he has this one guy on there that I don't really think is um, politically, aligned with my view. Like there's a segment where he says that Obama was one of the best presidents of the modern era, and I just roll my eyes in disgrace. But it was funny because he was talking about how when these candidates go up and it's months and months ahead of the actual election cycle, there's only one way for them to go after experiencing that surge, and it's happened in the Warren where she lost. I think it was 6 points. She went from being at 20 or 21% to 16 or 15. So that's another example of someone saying something that ends up holding water. But yeah, the people are so weird, man. They just I don't like. I've actually been staring at that poll in amazement because like Sanders does the most town halls out of anybody. Biden kind of disappears a little bit. Warren does some as well. And I don't even remember the last time I just saw Buttitrash talk about something. And it's like I guess because I don't pay attention to him as a candidate, but I also know that he's not doing as much stuff as Sanders. It's kind of weird to see this person just be at the top, when it seems like they're there for no reason. Like everybody else has these decade spanning careers, and he's just this person that came around out of nowhere and decided to, be on top for some reason. It's really strange. Now, I really don't know what to say about the media's coverage of him because if you have someone who they prop up and say this is a great person, good candidate, which is what they did to Harris before this, and you saw it happen to her, it's a lot harder for me to say, well, it's people being stupid because if they're hearing every day, oh my God, this candidate's so great, they're so great, and they're not politically, invested like myself or you might be, then we have a problem. Did you look more into Project for the New American Century? Multiple people who eventually joined the Bush administration were members. Not yet, Ruben. I'm trying to wrap up this documentary and start this other one on Door. I'll get around to it. So I'll just hold your horses. It's on its way. I know you're very upset, and you want me to know as much about as possible, and I'm trying to get to it. I just some of this stuff can be kind of overwhelming a little bit. So I'm not trying to push back against what you were saying. I just want you to understand that the only reason for its delay is because I'm trying to wrap up some other things as well. In the meantime, if you catch my drift. I hope you're not upset or angry or pissed off or any of that. Oh wow, David Frum did an interview with Paul Wells a couple of days ago. That's the person who you want to talk about Bush administration officials. That's the one that coined the axis of evil term. I have renewed interest in him because Jimmy had a clip from in that span of videos I was talking about where he was making fun of him on CNN for saying that the errors are the reason we should trust the media. them getting things wrong is why we should trust them. Like, you know how insane it is. We should believe in the accuracy of the media because they're inaccurate. Clinton News Network. Oh wait, Clinton Noise Network. Yeah, that's pretty much what they are. And when I told you that guy on Saturday pissed me off because he I mentioned Clinton saying that Tulsi was a Russian asset, and he goes, "Whoa, why would she say that? Why would she come out and say that? She must know something." Like, what an idiot! You can't accept the fact that this hag is upset that she lost the presidential election, and that she's trying to get revenge on Gabbard for having even though she's not a man, for having the balls to resign from the DNC so that she wouldn't have to endorse her or be involved with her campaign in any capacity. But again, because Hillary said it, there must be some weight to it. Again, I mentioned this yesterday. Imagine if I go on, I don't know, some interview and I say, if Buttitrash is elected, there will be every cabinet member he picks will be promoted based on them being gay. Now, Buttitrash has never said he would do that. Has never stated that sexuality matters to him if he picked people for his cabinet. It would just be me making something up. But because I'm Secretary of State or a former Democratic nominee, it suddenly makes sense and you believe it to be true. And that's why I said it's so ironic watching these parties and how their own, like the people who come out against these candidates, so they don't even if they're people who've won in the past, they always look stupid. Like Romney came out and gave that big speech against Trump, and then he still won anyway. Did CNN ever say anything about Clinton supposedly Ukrainian uranium deal for Russia? No, I have yet to see them cover that at all. I only ever hear about Russia in relation to Trump. They never talk about anything having to do with her in that country because they're trying to get him over that. It's not politically convenient to discuss her with that. That's probably something that'll be, and it sucks because they're so slanted toward the establishment. So they'll praise someone like Kasich or Clinton. I have to turn to people like CNN, not CNN, to Fox News just to get someone to actually critique the Democrats on anything. And it feeds into this narrative that they're these liberal lovers, even though, like I said, they treat Sanders like trash. So it's a strange dichotomy. Like I have to turn to this other network to get any kind of coverage of this, and then I have to like hope and pray that like it's actually going to turn into something that matters. Like, oh yes, they finally critiqued someone. It's so great and terrific. No, what I might do, Ruben, is for the Door documentary, maybe I'll make it to where, because if he has 50 videos every month, which is what it looked like, from that total was 52 from January of last year, I'll probably it'll be called like Jimmy Dore in 2018 and part one, then every part is a different month of that year. You see what I'm saying? And then I'll recount what his prediction was. I'll play a clip of it. I'll describe what happened in between those clips, try to give some historical context. I mean, this is the video era where we have a lot of different videos of these people and what they're doing. So I think it's very valuable to catalog what they said in relation to, contemporary events. I think Nikki Haley and that said that the resistance wanted to recruit her after she quit her job. I wouldn't be surprised. Her and Graham and Cotton and Cruz and Rubio are all they're all trying to be Trump's little successor. So she's on her way. She'll find some new elected position to run into. She's got a little bit of a problem right now because the governorship is taken over by whoever that guy was that was her lieutenant governor. Which from what I remember hearing, she was picked because the Trump was happy that he endorsed him, so he was trying to make it to where he could run for governor while already being governor by picking her for UN ambassador. And since then we've pretty much had the cycle of all those offices in South Carolina, except for maybe a House seat being completely taken over. Like the closest thing she could come back for is representative and challenge what's that guy's name in the first district, Cunningham, I think. So she'll find some new elected office somewhere. Had a troubled childhood. Yeah, he actually in one of the so there's a video where he was playing this clip of this 12-year-old girl that was imprisoned in occupied Israel, and he was talking about how these when he was young, I don't know if he was an adult or if he was adolescent, but he was describing how these cops pulled him over and they treated him like trash, and how angry he was. I might cut that one out, but the only reason I kind of struggled with deciding if I was going to put that in the first part of that year's documentary film is because I wanted to. The bigger story I think is still the little girl who is the child that is going through occupied Israel and was imprisoned and had her cousin get murdered by the occupied state. And then Newsweek did a little stupid story. Despite her youth, she's had many run-ins with officers. Like, yeah, blame the kid, not the crooked system that the kid is retaliating against that has killed her relatives multiple times. Okay. God, man, people, that's why I said I don't like these news sources. I don't like when people talk about this stuff because they say and do things that I just like. Whoever wrote that is a slime ball for trying to smear her instead of talking about the apartheid state in Israel. Also, he had a journalist on there who critiqued the U.S. and was talking about we were getting laughed at by Europe. I think his dad was a cop himself, and they didn't like each other. I've never, and I like to consider myself someone that's seen a lot of his stuff. I've never heard him talk about either of his parents in any of his uploads. So if you can find that clip, I'll be very interested to see it. But I'll probably, I'll continue to look through stuff for this week, and then we can go from there. Yeah, I've never heard him talk about any relative at all. And I know I think he has a bunch of siblings too, just nothing. It's same thing with Kyle, where I've heard him maybe mention his mother, I think twice or three times, and then that's about it. The thing about these progressive commentators, they usually don't ever talk about relatives at all. Like with Shapiro, he always mentions his wife, which he's at liberty to do that, whatever. But I just thought that was funny that the it's like the progressive commentators keep their family out of it no matter what, and then the conservative ones bring them up from time to time. So it's a interesting little cycle we have here. Man, I just the DNC is such a loser group. Like they're actually sitting around here hoping that we get a mayor that is an Israel bootlicker, can't decide what he wants to get out of Syria, and then trying to make you think the biggest reason for his opposition is his sexuality. It's like nobody cares, man. A lot of us know gay people. We don't, like if and this is why I said that we have a media that is disingenuous. They want you to believe that gays are accepted by society and everybody's so but then the first thing you do when a gay person runs is use who they're screwing or who they're with to try and say, yeah, that's the reason why they're losing. It can't be their positions. It can't be their phoniness. Nope. Shapiro's sister has leaked. Oh, I want to see those. Did they look good? Ruben, I want your honest opinion. Did you smile when you saw them? Yes or no? Let me see what she looks like. Let me type it in. Well, she's all right. Wow. Okay, well, we need to find these photos and put them in like a little folder or something. I really don't get why people try to make that seem like it's such a big deal. You know, they oh my God, we have pictures of you in this position. It's like, okay, I don't care. I mean, hell, if it was such a bad, damaging thing, someone wouldn't have asked for him. You know, if they were such a horrible thing that should never be seen, someone wouldn't have requested those type of images. But you know, they get certain people to be afraid, like that Katie Hill thing. Like, man, if I had those come out, you better believe I would still stay in my seat. Who has Adam Schiff endorsed for president? I think he's been neutral. Let me see. Type in Adam Schiff. God, this man, if it wasn't for this impeachment stuff, nobody would care or know who he is. So I just typed in Adam Schiff 2020 and I got Ballotpedia for his reelection campaign. And I don't see anything about who he endorsed. So he's just staying neutral. You already know he's going to endorse Biden or whoever the establishment person is. If you actually look at his record of what he supported prior to this impeachment stuff, it was garbage. It was he supported the Saudi-led coalition in Yemen. He backed not having a peace deal with North Korea. He's just a garbage politician with horrible positions, and I really wish we would get some primarying of him. But you know, Senator Blumenthal's another major politician to get worried about. Why get worried about him? I thought he gave up on running for president. He was thinking about it, but decided not to. It's kind of creepy how many more Democrats could have gotten in this if we had stayed the course, like Merkley, Brown. I'm so happy they decided to stay out of this. I mean, for the ones in Congress. Oh, was he going to be the next Democratic leader of the Senate that kowtows to Republicans and in one case fast tracks 15 Trump judges while telling you how unqualified Trump is and all this other contradictory crap? Blumenthal is in the Clinton inner circle. Well, yeah, I know him and Feinstein. Yeah, they're part of that crew, the Clinton crew, coming through, stopping progressive proposals. We just need to get rid of all these people. We need to have just vote everyone out. God, man, it's so pathetic. The people we have in office are just they're terrible, and no one seems to have a problem with how bad they are. Like, or they don't care. Which is what I told you, that unless it's a presidential election, people are so not into politics. Like they just don't pay attention to it at all. Got all these senators and just whatever, and we have a lot of them who aren't even known and get completely ignored, and they're able to be just as destructive without any critique. Like a Pat Roberts, that's a guy who literally sat in the background for 20 years in the Senate doing all the evil stuff that we accuse all the other Republicans of. But because he wasn't, as some would say, the loudest voice in the room, he's able to retire with no one saying, hey, look at what this horrible man did this year and that year and before that. And his voting record's online. People can look it up. I might even end up having to do a documentary on him just to prove how awful he is. It would be funny if I put it on his last day as a senator. I'm like, yeah, this is the guy that got elected to the Senate 4 times in Kansas for no reason, because I couldn't think of a single issue he led on. I just know that the other Kansas Senator, Morin, is actually someone I kind of like, again, because of his support for getting out of Yemen. Delaney is another horrible one who never gets talked about until recently. I thought it was, he got in the race really early and then was just like, because he was polling so low, it didn't really matter. Oh, that was the reason for it. And now he's out of Congress, so there's even less reason to talk about him. He probably run for governor or something after this. I saw him on Fox, I think about maybe someone actually said he looks like a shorter I mean from Congress again. Well, I'm saying he's out of Congress. He gave up his House seat. Someone said he looked like a shorter version of Louis Gohmert because they both have the we call it like the bald thing and then the two hair at the side. Support the same positions. That's Gohmert's little brother. That's his cousin from Maryland or something. My favorite thing is when people think everybody looks like everybody. They think Shapiro looks like Kyle. They think Kyle looks like Jimmy. It's like, oh my god, every guy with black hair looks like the other one. Like completely different faces, and I like, oh my god, man, that's insane. That's really crazy. Jesus, I'm amazed that we even like people they no critical thinking skills. Yeah, Buttitrash will probably stay in that position for another month or so and then come down. Because I got worried about Warren, but she's doing just like status quo said. So the tumbling will occur at some point. Maybe not this month, but certainly I think before the actual thing. And even then, I still think these polls don't accurately indicate all the people that will come out for either Sanders or Warren. I think that it's just a thing of their, it's subject to change, or because the poll that was accompanied that one had Sanders ahead of Buttigieg by 1 point, or they were statistically tied. So I think it's just kind of a hit or miss thing at this point. Is Biden still leading? No, he dropped. The only state I still see him leading, and it's like no matter what happens, he just stays on top over there. Is South Carolina, North Carolina. He's been completely just. I don't know what it is about that state, man. Damn it. I want him to win nowhere. I want him to end up like Jeb Bush. I want him to be the supposed front runner, like Bush and Scott Walker, and then completely peer out. I shouldn't even say Scott Walker. I should call him by what I used to call him, the hot dog vendor. Yeah, I want them to get completely trounced. No, but he's still leading in South Carolina. And what I heard them saying this morning was that they'll, if he wins in South Carolina, he'll be able to go, oh, see, I can win in the South. I appeal to the blue dog Democrats, to the moderate crowd, and then he'll use that as justification of staying until Super Tuesday, and they'll say, oh, he'll win all the South, and he'll get the nomination that way. Ruben says maybe it really is Trump supporters who are getting registered as Democrats in South Carolina. It might be. I mean, I've seen people do that when Trump was running. They try to register and vote for whoever the other person is so they could have the brokered convention, remember? And it didn't work. DNC wants those David Frum votes, those axis of evil votes. There are just so many different significant commentators and people that are in the background, like Karl Rove from before he died, Crothammer, just it's a wide spectrum of big individuals. And then there's even the ones I can't remember the name off the top of my head. Oh man, it sucks. We should do that. Like have a whole documentary about the history of the Republicans. And I mean, I know who's the main one who made it the way it is now. It's not a president though. All that stuff about the Reagan Revolution was a bunch of malarkey. Let's see, Bob Kagan, who I brought up yesterday. Yeah, he again, I that's why I said there's some I his name was on the tip of my tongue, but I couldn't recall at that exact moment. Every time I hear the name Kagan, I keep thinking of the Supreme Court justice. So that's why I get a little tripped up when you mention them. But again, I know what you're talking about. It's just an internal issue for me. Yeah, it's God, this primary has been so ridiculous, and we haven't even started the voting yet. That's the creepy part. That it's just been people going to one state, they give a speech, they travel over here, they give a speech. They're probably related to. I haven't checked yet. I hope not. I'd be embarrassed if that was one of my relatives. Well, actually, no, because people don't pay attention to unless he was president or the vice president. People don't know who he is, and even then, people still know who some vice presidents are, which is really disturbing. But if we get stuck with Pence after this, if this impeachment thing were to actually go through, people would know who he was. So, man, we have such a weird obsession with the presidency. Like every other office and the people in them get completely ignored. It drives me crazy. It's really insane. But again, that's why I said I'm going to try to, after I do a few more of these president documentaries, I'll try to do some on some senators because there are a lot of different members of Congress who have been impactful. Okay, Roy Cohn was another major figure in U.S. politics that never gets talked about. Yeah, the lawyer for McCarthy and Trump, two conspiracy theorists from different eras. Hell, I mean, I don't really hear McCarthy, the person, being talked about as much as just the term McCarthyism. So, and remember when they would do the McCarthy Cruz comparisons where they would say Cruz looks like him? It's funny because even though they look alike, they look similar, they sound nothing alike. Oh, I know they were. That was yeah, I recall. Ruben, I know you mentioned at one point you want me to know more about the Civil War, but I'm very familiar with politics of, I'd say, the latter half of the 20th century. I can name a lot of different figures from that era. I'm just saying. I have some understanding of this stuff. I'd like to believe that. Yeah, I'll try to get to these. Man, just there are so many things to talk about. I swear. All right, do you have any final comments, questions, concerns, theories, positions, things of that nature that you want said, or will you forever hold your peace, or at least until Saturday when I try to do another stream and hopefully don't get interrupted by an idiot, as was the case this past weekend, and that was horrible. Always say 6 p.m. live show again. It's late, and then a few minutes after I started, hi, I'm finished for now. Bye, and hope you have a good week. All right, we'll look forward to the Taft documentary. It might come out Thursday, but it will definitely be this week. And I'll try to get started on. I'll try to, actually do more editing for the door one, and then also pick another one of the presidents to do after that. So, see you later.